Thank you. I'm going to check if we have a. Huh, check if we have a. We don't have a Ron Holnick. Do we have a Mary Holnick? We don't have a Mary Holnick. Wonderful. Okay. So with that in mind, I'm going to do all of it. All right, everyone. Hi. Today is Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. I'm Jeffrey Morgan, and this is a talk I host twice a week to discuss my experiences on the path of soul transcendence. This offering is brought to you by the Movement of Spiritual Inner Awareness with the encouragement and support of my friend John Morton, who holds the mystical traveler consciousness, which is the spiritual consciousness that does the work that we're doing here today. If you're new to the call, the format is simple. We're going to start by calling ourselves forward into the light, which is calling our awareness forward into the light of God that's already present. And then we're going to chant three Anai hues. Hue is an ancient name for God, and Anai invokes a quality of empathy and compassion. Then I'm going to play a video clip from my teacher, John Roger, and then I'm going to do a reading from Kabir. And then we can talk about whatever you would like. So with that, I'm going to call us forward into the light, and then we'll take off. So you just all close our eyes. Father, Mother, God, once again we call ourselves forward into your love, light, and sound. And as we reach up into our highest truth, we ask to be filled, surrounded, and protected by the light of the Holy Spirit and the light of the Christ. We open ourselves at this time to receive of the guidance and the healing and the clearing of spirit. And we ask that any karma or negativity that can be lifted be taken into the highest realms of light and dispersed into the nothingness from which it came. We do this session in the presence and under the guidance of the mystical traveler in Christ consciousness. And we ask these consciousnesses to remove any doubts, fears, or any negativity that would stand in the way of all that's been prepared for us. And we again ask for all of this for the highest good. We ask for a special blessing of grace at this time. That from this moment, from the very center of who we are, expanding outward, this form of light, this Holy Spirit, this loving everlasting pour forth. We ask that all beings everywhere, at any time, in any place, in any size, in any sentience, we ask that all beings be filled with love and peace and joy. We ask that all that we do here be done within the energy and presence of John Roger and the Lord Jesus Christ. That all the emissaries of light that work through the mystical traveler in Christ consciousness be present in this action of loving, in this action of togetherness. And we are grateful to be together, for we know that when two or more gathered in your name, you are there also. And we're grateful for we know that the blessings already are. And above all, we're grateful for we know that your will is done. And for this, above all, we give our thanks. Berush Bishan.
Divine love is not beyond us. It is authentically caring from your heart into another person or an animal or a tree or whatever. It's an authentic caring. And once we reach that, we have to step back from the doors into the kingdom of heaven, because they don't push out. They actually come back in. So we got to stop pushing everything. Our blood pressure drops. Our diseases go away. Back comes the door. They step in, and we're in. Then what does the door do? Close behind us? No. It stays open as a way shower to the next one behind you. We're role models for the next one behind us. We're leaders for the next one behind us. We're following the one in front of us and leading the one behind us and loving all of them along the way. And if you're not doing that, you really don't belong in any more of these seminars with me. If you bumble sometimes and you don't do it, cool. We're not perfect here. We're just going for good and excellent. If you go for perfection, that means it can't move ever, 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 ever again. That's a statue. That's not life. We're to have life and to have more of it. And that means we got to move around to have more of the life that we're to have more of. We got to get walking to those places where those opportunities of living are there for us. We've got to take advantage of the movement of our body before it dies on us. Those are our choices. Those are our responsibilities. And remember, we're way showing for others who are coming along.
All right. Here's a poem by Kabir. Inside this clay jar, there are meadows and groves, and the one who made them. Inside this jar, there are 7 oceans and innumerable stars, acid to test gold, and a patient appraiser of jewels. Inside this jar, the music of eternity, and a spring flows from the source of all waters. Kabir says, "Listen, friend, my beloved master lives inside." All right. What would you all like to talk about today? Hey, Birdie. Oh, I think you muted yourself again. Let me,
Okay, there we go.
yeah.
Okie dokie. I'm glad that somebody reminded me it's at 6:00. I forgot. So thank you. I have a question about trust. I would like to have a deeper level of trust of myself, my intuition, and especially of what comes forward from spirit. So that's like the bottom line. I could go into stories, but trust. Whatever you have to say, I'm totally open to.
What would be an example of a time where you didn't demonstrate trust and it didn't work for you?
Whoa, that's a good question. Wow.
But you're saying you want it, so I'm just kind of going with that.
Well, there's a situation where I have, let me be a little more specific, where I have some money coming in, but that might stop. And my Social Security doesn't, I mean, I've done so much service my whole life that I don't get very much Social Security and I have a little savings. So, but the money that's been coming in has been really, I could buy more supplements. I could go to Air One instead of Whole Foods and little things like that. It's just been delightful. And that there's a possibility that that might stop. And there's a part of me that's running, oh my God, what am I going to do? Where's it going to come from if it does stop? And I know a phrase I tell myself often, Bertie, you've been really well taken care of by spirit and whatever for 78 years. They're not going to stop now. But then that inner part is like, oh, what if, what if, what if? So I don't know if that's clearer, but
Yeah, I would say for me, the process of developing the trust that you're talking about comes at the level of my presence and my action, not at the level of my thought. When I talk about how I want thought, usually I'm reflecting on my life and I'm doing some math and I'm looking at all the facts that I think I'm perceiving. And then I have beliefs about those facts. And then I respond emotionally to my beliefs about those facts. And then I react to my emotional response to those facts. And then I create other beliefs about that. You see what I'm saying? It starts to spiral. And then I start wondering, why do I not trust? Why do I not trust?
so how do you catch yourself and shift? Sometimes I know I'm doing that, but it's almost an addiction, I think.
Yeah, well, I think it's number one, it's understanding that we're not our mind. So the mind that seeks that artificial certainty, it's like if I'm sure you've had this experience. I mean, you've worked with teenagers and young people. They're freaking out about something that you, Birdie, know in 20 years they're not even going to remember. And maybe even in 3 months they're not even going to care about. But right now the world is ending, right? So now, do you you imagine that little kid's like your mind, right? Now, do you tell that I'm using this example because I know you know how to handle this because you have handled this, but like, do you tell that kid to shut up and leave you alone? No, I don't think you do that.
I might do that inside, but I don't do it
No,
outwardly.
well, and do you try and logic them out of them? No, they're inconsolable, they're crying. What's the first thing you do?
Just
They're
love.
crying, they're freaking out. You give them a hug
Yeah.
and you tell them everything's okay and you just love on them. And do you argue with the things that they say? No. You let them go to the end of whatever it is that they need to say because why? Because they need to get it out of their system in order to process something else. I find that most of the time we spend trying to control the mind. Actually, the most painless approach is holding the light, chanting the tone, letting the mental process go where it needs to go, as far as it needs to go, and just saying, okay, have you had enough, beloved? And then
Mhm.
when it's done, then you can come in and go, okay, now what's true? Because the thing is, what's true insofar as something can be true down here, which is limited to say the least, but insofar as something's true, it's more like it's resilient energetically. It's like if the energy continues, then it's probably accurate. If the energy falls on its face, it's not accurate. So it's like the decision-making process. We create these artificial pressures where we try to say, "Oh, I have to make a decision right now. What do I do if I can't go eat at Erewhon?" You know what I mean? Or like you start to create all these fantasies about something that isn't present. When reality, as far as we experience it as conscious selves, is very much in this moment. What do I need in this body? And it may be that you don't have enough money in your bank account to go get what you need. Instead, you get a phone call from a girlfriend is like, I'm in town temporarily. I'd like you to take you out to whatever restaurant you want. It's my treat, I insist. And I know that's happened to you too.
Mhm. A lot.
A lot.
Yes. Yeah.
Just understand that you say, how do I trust more? But really, the question is more like, what is it that is behind the mind that seeks to create artificial realities, that seeks to create fantasy for this artificial experience of security?
Whoa, that's a really good question. I
Yeah, I've been known to ask those sometimes. Like the trust thing that you're talking about, it's like it becomes irrelevant in the presence. If you can be in that precious presence, if you can hold in that, trust is as immediate as breathing. It's not it's not something that needs to be measured or proven. It's simply the steadfastness of the energy and following that, following the loving. Do you need to trust to follow the loving? Well, maybe if a lot of really scary things come up and try to talk you out of doing that, that's fine. But my experience is when you're in the zone, in that loving, it's not really a question of believing something. It's a question, it's like as immediate and real as the sky is blue. You just breathe it in. Like
that makes so
you,
much
you
sense.
have to trust that you're going to take your next breath, or you just take it.
Take it. It's there. I can't
Right.
stop.
The thing is, in the context of the mind, there's never going to be enough money. You could have $1 million in your bank account and your mind would come up with something. Well, what if they try to take it? And what if I'm losing interest? And I don't know. The price of things is going up right now. I don't know if this is going to last for the rest of my life. I'm actually really healthy. I could live a lot more years. And you see,
You
because
hit the
because
nail
it,
on the head.
right, because it's not about the money. It's about something behind this process of the mind that is seeking fulfillment through this action of the mind. So if you actually want this thing to go away or work with it, I actually find it's like you listen to it, you let it go. It's like that little girl, right? You listen to her, you let her go to the end of the fantasy, and then say, okay, now that we've gotten all this out of the way, what is this really about?
Mm.
What can I do to assist you and support you in feeling safe?
But that makes so much sense. And when you talked about the mind, JR told me most of my karma is in the emotional realm, which often comes from what I do up here. And I've been working on that for 50, 55 years. So it's almost like it's really subtle now. And some of the things you were talking about is like, oh my God, yeah, that's what
It's so,
exactly what.
and the subtlety comes in where it gets difficult is most people who are adroit with the mind and adroit with the work that we do, they'll go to all these trainings, they'll learn all these skills, and they'll work the skills, and they'll work it, but they'll work it within the context of the who they think they are, who they think they are. Once we recognize that this conscious self, this ego identity, this something is a construct that is designed for us to have experience through, like an interface for the soul to experience in the physical level. And once we understand that it has a purpose that isn't simply accurately reporting what is going on in the world, it has a purpose that's called fulfill the karma, fulfill the playlist, fulfill whatever it is we agree to do in this lifetime. We start to understand that there's something going on behind the scenes that's driving the thought process. Thoughts are just energy seeking completion. It's just energy, it's mental energy seeking completion. The mind is not a one thing, it's a mechanism set up in the construct of the lower beingness of the consciousness that is designed so that you can have the experiences you agreed to have. And underneath most of the thought processes we have is an incomplete that we started at some point that we're now finishing. So if you can trace the root of that, see, this is why it's like you can do forgiveness for 100 years and never find freedom if you don't realize that as soon as you escape the self that has judgment, there's nothing left to forgive. as soon as you're not the one who judges, as soon as you're just the Christ walking on this planet. And that's what was demonstrated to us. Then you realize there's nothing to forgive. And I worked with people over and over and over who were like, I spent 20 years trying to forgive my mother. And the solution was getting out of the misperception and the ego story of what they think happened and understanding that what happened was God loving itself and really knowing that, not like printed on a Hallmark card, but understanding the perfection in it and understanding it wasn't personal. We made it personal through the ego, but it's never personal. It's just completion. It's just an action of completion in the consciousness. And the choice that we have is to spiritualize that expression by bringing the loving into it.
So how do you get to how do I get to what's underneath all those thoughts that I need to bring the loving to?
You start to pull your attention and your focus into the soul consciousness. And that's where things like SCs are very helpful because you start to reference from a transcendent self, the impersonal perfect self, the consciousness that is beyond the personality ego. And you simply observe the system. In my case, it's like you become the healer, the healing presence, the listener, the one who witnesses. And then you love all those parts of the system and you simply see the perfection in it. And the funny thing is, it may be that you never actually solve for your mind creating negative fantasies. They just don't affect you anymore because you totally get it and you totally get why it's perfect and you totally get how God made it and it just doesn't bother you. You just kind of go, that's a really clever fantasy. How did you come up with that?
I like that. That would be nice. That's easier for me to do with other people than it
No, but
has been for me.
that's my point. It's like everything I'm talking about, you've done for countless. And when I say countless, you probably forgot all those people. That's how many people we're talking about that you ministered to in this way. All I'm talking about doing is relating to your mind as the same. Because every every molecule in existence came out of God, and every molecule in existence will return to God. And in the consciousness of the Christ, every molecule of this universe and all universes conspire to bring you inward to the kingdom of heaven, to the outer kingdom of heaven, and into the kingdom of God. If we have an antagonistic relationship with the mind, we are not loving our enemy.
Whoa,
Your,
that's why
your mind is there to be loved. It's not there to be followed, but it's there to be loved.
I'm working on that one.
So the trust that you're talking about, it's funny. It's like when you would dance and trusting that your body knows where to put the footstep. That's the trust that I'm talking about. It's not a trust that comes from attempting to control or contain through the mental level. It's a trust that comes from the elegance of beingness. It's not forcing, it's surrendering to the dance that is already choreographed spiritually for you.
That word elegance, I love that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And since you mentioned teens, send the light. I'm assisting at Teen Insight this week again, and I'm
Not
super
surprised.
excited. Yeah, right. Light to all those amazing beings that are going to start waking up. Super excited. Thank you so much, Jeffrey.
God
Love,
bless.
love you. Love you.
Okay, Brenda.
Hi, let me just get my video going. Hi, Jeffrey, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I'm sitting in the caravan. It's a little bit noisy around here, so I'll try and speak up. Um, there's a lot going on in my life at the moment, but something, and which is really waking me up to the fact that God's hand is everywhere, just the ease and grace of how things are happening. But there's something troubling me, and that is a nephew um, who committed suicide a week ago. Um, he was just really beautiful, you know, 35 years old, a beautiful young man. And it's left the family devastated. Nobody can quite understand why he did it. And I'd like to know a little bit more what happens to to his soul. Um, I'm sort of wondering if because I know the high self gives permission. You can't do it without permission from the high self. Does it sort of mean that he might have died in another way, and this was suicide could have been the more elegant way of him, passing on? What what can you say about suicide? And I'd like to understand a bit better.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think a more useful question might be how you can let go of the upset that you have about this and how you can experience greater freedom with it. I can tell you
Okay.
how it works to some extent, but I also
Yeah.
realize that that is going to help you um, relate mentally, which will allow you to pull some of the energy out of the discomfort that you have inside you right now.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the discomfort is important and it's sacred. So I want to honor that too.
Okay.
So I'll start with this. And John Roger has described this fairly in quite a bit of detail as far as the timing of death and things of that nature.
Okay.
If it is not our agreed upon time to exit, it's like somebody tries to commit suicide and they survive. That happens actually quite a bit. It's like the gun misfires or they jump and then they survive. And maybe they're physically disabled after, but they survive. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, this is even in the Bible. It's like you can't, through all of your worrying, somehow manage to get another breath. There's a certain set of windows that are usually given in a lifetime where a person is, in a sense, given permission, a window to leave. There's also instances where somebody has completed what they largely contracted to complete in a lifetime, and they're given, let's say, bonus time for service or something like that. Like not bonus as in like a reward, or at least I don't necessarily relate to it that way, but they're given more time because they have more they agreed to do. Um,
Yeah.
so that's one part of it. It is accurate that the high self agrees with the soul, largely the direction of the life plan and what agreements and things need to be completed. Now, within that process, you can think of it like karma is the soil. If you're a gardener, it's the soil you've inherited that you have in your backyard, and it's the seeds that you have on saved. Okay.
Okay.
You can you can want other things to happen. You can plant as many seeds as you want, but the soil will only be as a default at a certain level of fertility to support a certain type of cultivation. So to a
Okay.
large extent, it's not deterministic. It just means some people have to work the soil if they want to grow certain plants, and some people, they come in with volcanic soil and everything they throw at that soil just grows immediately.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there's free choice in that process. And that choice is attitude, that choice is how to relate to the process. But please understand that, and my intuition and experience of all of this is to say there's a lot of compassion, that it's like, I don't know if I would do better if I was given this karma around chemical imbalance in the brain or this, or I have the, and things get activated in people's karma, and we have free choice, but man, it can be real, real tough depending on what the soul agrees to experience. And so the person is going to do what they need to do, and they're going to move on to the next experience that they need to have. And it's
Yeah.
very easy for people who remain to wonder what they could have done differently or if they could have prevented it.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody is sort of more or less shocked. Do you know what I mean? It was unexpected in a way.
And
He,
that's why I'm saying everything I'm telling you. I can
mm,
talk about the dynamics of how the high self agrees with the soul about the life plan and feeds experience and a script into the basic self who delivers for the subconscious. And the basic self can be rebellious and refuse to do that, or the conscious self can be rebellious and refuse to do that. I can give you all the mechanics of all of that, but none of
yeah,
that is going to address the fact that you have incompletion inside of you with him, with this
yeah,
person, and that the
yeah.
way to address the incompletion is to be with that person inside of you. Grief is a love
Okay.
affair. Grief is a
Yeah.
love affair, and it is a sacred, sacred process. We
Okay.
relate to it as a burden, but it is a
Mhm.
gift from God because it is a bathing and anointing in the loving that we have for a person.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so
Mm.
what I would suggest that you do is number one, be really okay about crying because
Mm.
every tear is is a gift. Every tear is sacred. So that's number one. So me telling you about the three selves or how they work together in cases of suicide isn't going to give you any of that. And number two, we we look at the physical circumstance and think like, oh, that's over. I can't resolve any of this. I would suggest you can go inside and be with that person and love on that person.
Okay.
And you can sit with them and you can ask them, why did you do this? Can we talk about this? And maybe they need to heal. So maybe you bring in an ascended master or an angel or somebody. You bring in my case, it's always going to be John Roger and the Lord Jesus Christ because I'm just very, very predictable. But you bring
Yeah.
them in and have them do work on your loved one and you have that person
Yeah.
heal. There's so much you can do so that all you have remaining of that person inside of you is absolute loving, absolute and total unconditional loving. And then anytime you think
Okay.
of them, you're reminded of God's loving.
Thanks. It's helping a lot. I uh, I got stuck on um what's going to happen to him. Do you know what I mean? Like, is he getting stuck? Sort
This
of
whole
slightly afraid if
experiment,
he's,
this whole experiment is the blink of an eye. Out of
yeah,
God comes all things. God loves all of his creations, and not one soul will be lost. Whether
okay,
he's taking a shortcut or the scenic route home, he's going home to God.
yeah,
And you don't have to
he,
worry because he's already God. That's the best part. This
yeah.
was an
No,
expression. He needed to have this body, needed to
yeah,
have this ex this experience, I
Okay.
understand the shock. And see, that's the other component because what I just told you about is being with the grief and being with the loving in that. But there's also a kind of compassion for the basic self, which is getting used to the physical absence of a person.
Yeah.
And that's its own process of recalibration. And so you get to be the lover and the support and the healer of your basic self and your body consciousness as you allow it to readjust to the new normal.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. It's I'll spend time with him on the inside, and I'll I'll honor myself as well. It's a very good reminder, for what I'm going through as well.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Jeffrey. Yeah,
And
yeah,
again, like it's a sacred process. It's not meant to be an emotionally indulgent process. And I think you'll
yeah,
know when you're authentically in it or when you're just negatively cycling.
yeah,
When you're really in it, it is a baptism. It is there's a purification to it. It's hard to explain what I'm talking about, but it's like something like a loving that washes over you and you're
yeah,
never the same. Not in a bad way. It's
yeah,
just that loving leaves its mark.
yeah. I um I can feel it. I've I've I honestly feel as if I just got a blessing. Yeah. I love the word sacred. Grieving is sacred. Thanks for that. Yeah. What can I say? God bless you, Jeffrey. Thanks for helping me.
My pleasure. And there's also like, if you are really interested in the three selves, um, I'm going a little nutso into that space, but JR has an incredible amount of good materials on that, including a discourse called The Three Selves, if you've done the discourse thing, and I'm
Yeah.
reading really crazy books about Huna and all kind of fun stuff just to learn more about that stuff. But that's just because I'm a nerd, not because it's needed.
I'm a nerd as well, Jeffrey. So, yeah, no thanks. I'll
Okay.
do some reading. I'll do some reading. Thank you very much.
Okay. God bless you.
God bless you.
Okay, Joanne. Let me should allow you to unmute. Yeah.
Hi there, Jeffrey.
Hello.
Um, and, I've been practicing for a long time in my mind as to what I want to talk about.
Oh,
Um, so I'll just because I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, I have a very unusual relationship to sleep. You know, to close your eyes. And so when I've been narcoleptic. So I've had that experience from maybe when I was in eighth grade. So I've been a narcoleptic. And so a lot of connection with my dream state. And then recently, well, maybe 10
does
years ago,
that mean you like fall asleep at random times?
yeah, random times, yes. And
That's awesome.
well,
Where do you fall asleep?
I have, well, that's my earlier form of that. Anywhere, name it. On the trains in Japan when I was with a traveler and driving home, trying to get off the Bronx River Parkway and make the right turn. You know,
You know, I consider myself a pro sleeper. I mean, I can sleep in cars and all that I can sleep on a rock. I do love sleeping. But I don't think I've achieved what you've achieved, so I'm just
no,
basking in
and
your greatness.
it's got a unusual factor to it because there's a period of time where I could be talking and kind of asleep at the same time. Anyways,
Oh my
um,
God, that's awesome. You ever mess with people with that? I mean, if I had that, I would just tell people I'm sleep. Like if I didn't want to like remember that they told me to do something, I'd be like, I'm sorry, I was sleeping when you told me that.
no, not
That's what I
actually.
would
No,
do.
but about 10 years ago, I had a knee replacement. So now my current relationship to sleep after this experience with the operation has been I sleep for maybe 2 or 3 hours, and then I'm awake, and then I sleep for 2 or 3 hours, and then I'm awake. I've been able to expand my awake state longer than 2 hours, but for 10 years, I've never really slept longer than 2 or 3 hours. So I'm
Oh.
in contact with my dreams. I dream a lot. I can remember my dreams, so I can be awake and understand what's happening in that dream world. And I just it's an odd rhythm that my life is in. And if you have anything to share about that, or the
So what
meaning or
happened?
the blessing of it, or the um, fulfillment of some sort of promises in terms of this life, which has been as I
So
described.
what happened when so you got your knee replacement and then was it pain that kept you up or like what
No,
happened?
it just I just came out of it. It wasn't related to pain. I
Got
think,
it.
when JR talked about, when he had his operations and he came out with a different consciousness,
Ah.
and I heard him a sat tape recently about that, and I thought, well, that kind of describes I had an operation and I came out with a different relationship to sleep and a different kind of consciousness. So
Yeah, and you didn't have that cool ability with the do you still I mean are you still able to sleep random places or you're down to
it
three
that
hours?
doesn't happen anymore, no.
Oh wow.
So the narcolepsy is kind of seems to be that part of it seems to be
Kind of
complete.
went you went to the opposite extreme. Now we got to balance you out.
And what it let I'm so whatever we think supposedly happened physically when we're sleeping, the cleaning up of the whatever they say in the um, chemically, um, I'm I guess I'm not needing that, or
Are you
whatever is allowing me to continue to be alive and
are
basically
you
healthy. And
doing more SCs with the extra time? The more spiritual exercises with the extra time?
I would say not. I don't think my rhythm of spiritual exercises has changed. I have a rhythm, but it's not. It's kind of in the 4 or 5 day rhythm.
What's the 4 or 5 day rhythm? What does that mean?
Doing SEs for every 4 or 5 days.
Oh wow. Yeah. I've had some experiences where I've done spiritual exercises when I've woken up. I think that yeah, when I'm kind of on night watch or whatever, I'll wake up at 2 a.m. and then just start doing spiritual exercises for the remainder of the night. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel fresh as the daisy the next day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good suggestion. I'm not. I usually get up and do things.
Oh. Well, I mean, spiritual exercises is doing something.
Yeah, the kind of things that use my body to move around. Like I make soup, or I'm not chopping carrots, or like I'm putting things in the dryer.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's apparent is you seem to have some stories going about you not getting what you need or your brain not cleaning itself or like whatever that is around sleep. But it seems like this is just how it works, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
have you had any other negative effects?
Um, Not necessarily. Maybe the negative effects is all my awareness of all the things that happen in the dream world, and sometimes they're not pleasant.
Okay.
Um, and the kind of dreams that I have, sometimes they're not very pleasant, and sometimes they seem to be um, me fulfilling some sort of promise of
Have you
relationships.
have you done walking in the light?
A long time ago, yes.
Do you do those
I
processes
don't.
before
It's
bed and
long
when you
ago,
wake
and
up?
or wherever the booklet is, I don't know. So no.
Yeah, they offer an online version of that. Maybe somebody can post the link. I get the sense that would help you out.
Hmm. Hmm.
Would you be open to looking at that?
I would be opening to looking at that, and then the part of me that kind of said is a money concern.
Oh, okay.
So
You could
I
probably
could.
ask for help with that.
Oh, I never thought of that.
You could just ask.
I could.
You could email. There are people who respond to those emails.
All right. That's something that, all right. I hear you. Yeah.
You know, I totally buy that your consciousness shifted when you had the knee replacement. I mean, it seems like you have all the evidence that that's the case. And in fact, I got that that's what happened anyway. But I would say if you have all this opportunity in the middle of the night, are you familiar with the term? So you wake up around like what, like 2 a.m. or something like that?
It's not, it's every 2 or 3 hours, so it can change. But I do wake up in the middle of the night. It's not like a regular thing because it's not regular.
Got it. So when do you go to sleep and when do you
I,
leave for
I'm
bed?
I'm going to bed for the entire day because
Uh,
I'm going to sleep every 2 or 3 hours, and I sleep for 2 or 3 hours and then I get up.
oh, I see what you're
So
saying.
I don't relate to, bedtime, in the way most people are relating to that concept.
You're a very unique, interesting person. That's so cool.
I am. It's different. And if there's any sense of um, embracing this, for whatever reason, I've been running this particular concern around in my head for quite a while. So whatever, well, for whatever reason that I'm doing that too. I mean, why am I so? Um, if there's anything for me to see beyond what I'm presenting, that would be for my highest good.
You know, I tried the experiment of like I used to tell myself I need to get 5 hours of sleep, and if I don't get 5 hours of sleep, I'm not functional.
Mm-hmm.
And then I shifted that, and when I woke up, I decided I was going to tell myself that I got more than enough sleep and I'm doing great, and I'm going to do 20 minutes of SCs and then I'll feel fine.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing changed physiologically in terms of the sleep, but I felt refreshed. So I would clear and let go of whatever story you have about how your body's unhealthy or something like that. I mean, altogether, if you're actually sleeping off and on every 3 hours, so you do 2 to 3 hours every 2 to 3 hours,
Mm-hmm.
that's might add up to quite a bit of sleep, right? I mean, that's like 12 hour kind of adds up to about up to 12 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. That ain't bad.
Mm-hmm.
It might just be how you function. Yeah. I don't know. You seem fine to me.
Um, or maybe I'm also wondering how to bring loving into the dream state so that I can bring more loving, what you talk about, the relationships inside of ourselves, etc. The things
Yeah.
that you've been talking to us. How can I do that? Inform my dream state to be able to do that.
Oh, yeah. Well, usually you do your spiritual exercises and then you can chant your tone in the sleep state because you'll remember to chant your tone because as a default you'll be chanting your tone. That one really helps. Or you do walking in light before you go to sleep and when you wake up because then you'll be ready to go into sleep and then when you wake up then you can clear off whatever you did in the sleep and then you move on.
Got it.
Honestly, I think it's more about cultivating an awareness that is not externalized. And when you do spiritual exercises, you're able to hold in that center, and
Mhm.
then that extends into the sleep state. So spiritual exercises would definitely help you with that. And if you don't, given the rhythm that you have, and given maybe you're doing, I don't know, maybe you do 30 minutes every 3 hours, or like you take a portion of, take 10% of whatever period of awakeness you have and give it to SEs, and then take
Yes.
10% of the next one. It doesn't have to be a ton, but the more you do it, And the more you can chant your tone throughout the day, just say it, just chant it into your third eye, just chant and chant and chant, the more it's going to be your natural response to whatever you perceive.
Yeah. That's funny. I just have one other thing. I just all of a sudden I have this whole sense of whatever my body was like when I was smoking. I just felt like, anyways, just a response in my body that I don't was unusual. Um,
What now?
I'm just noticing that in my body I have that sensation of what it's like to be smoking because I was a smoker a long time ago. Anyways, it's not. It's just something that came up. Maybe something more to be cleared. That's
Let it go then.
in my consciousness. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I'm just realizing that judgments is just a chance for me to see a judgment of my
I
own.
agree. I
Yeah, yeah,
forgive myself for judging the smoker in me.
yeah,
Forgive
yes,
myself for forgetting that I'm divine.
yes.
I love the smoker in me, and God loves the smoker in me. I'll make you a deal. How about you try doing more SCs and maybe try
Yes,
walking in light?
yes.
You come back and share with me and let me know how that goes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Just realizing we have quite a few people. Could you raise your hand if you've never shared with me before? I'm going to give priority to people who have not shared with me before. But I will probably have time to get to everybody, but I'm just being, so I'll start with Dr. Kathleen. I don't know how to pronounce that. You'll tell me in a moment.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kathleen. Um, Two questions. How do I prepare for my father's death? He was just moved to memory care. He's 93, my mom's 90, and they're not, I'm not living in that state. Um, so I want to make sure I've done everything I can do for him. I'm really close to my father, and I feel like he's preparing. I think he's
So what do you mean by you mean prepare emotionally or prepare in your consciousness or prepare physically? What do you mean?
emotionally, spiritually, yes, consciousness,
Got
acceptance.
it.
Do you want to hear the second question or wait?
Yeah, yeah, go for it. Yeah, yeah.
The second one is I'm a psychologist and I've had a lot of patients express concerns about AI recently, and I want to know if you have any words of assurance for them or what my approach might be for helping them through that, especially they're fearful of when it becomes sentient.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, that's great. I have a lot of I have a lot of things to say about that.
I bet.
Let's start. I work for an AI company, so
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah. Um, okay, so let's start with preparing for. So I look at the immediacy of connection and the immediacy of the relationship, the one that's available within you and the one that's available right now, the one that you can be present to. We are trained from an early age to externalize relationships and to relate to the physical proximity or the smell of a person or the sound of their voice or all the things that we love about them. And all of that's beautiful. And at the same time, because the relationships exist within us, it's always available within us. So, and I saw this actually interesting example with some people around the death of John Roger in my life, which was like a monumental thing. For me, I had cultivated a kind of an inner relationship with him that was very strong and became my primary reference point.
Yes.
And that meant that while physical interaction was, I mean, there was nothing like hugging the guy. There was nothing quite like that. But even in the absence of that, that wasn't my go-to anyway after a while. My go-to was in here. There's a truth that when we start to reference from and connect to more fully soul consciousness, we are also connecting to every soul in God's creation, God's expression. So, in point of fact, the most intimate connection we can have with any other person is that connection by going through our own kingdom of heaven within into the soul and into that sound current and into God. It's extremely intimate. So the closeness that I feel with people now, going first inward and upward and outward, and it's not outward as in like inward and upward and allness, is more intimate than any personal relationship I've ever had. So in a strange way, everyone becomes close to me. Now, look, my basic self still has preferences and still has like stuff. And that's why when I was talking to somebody else about grieving, I talked about the difference between you can have the immediacy and the connection of the loving, but there's also something called the basic self, the lower self, the consciousness of the body that just needs to get used to the new pattern. It's very habitual. It's very much about like get used to not hearing the person's voice on the phone. Get used to not, you see what I'm saying? Like there's habitual patterning that is the way in which the body consciousness creates safety. And in the absence of that rhythm, we have to kind of redefine that self, that lower self. So I look at those as two separate endeavors because you can cultivate as you prepare for his transition, you cultivate this connection with the soul that is expressing as him. And you connect at the soul level, you connect at the spiritual level, and you make that your first point of connection, and you practice and create the habit of go inward, go inward. Now, from a young age, you would have been patterned to go outward, go outward, go outward. Like this is where the relationship exists. But if you can repattern and start going inward, there you get to a place where you don't notice a difference. And then it just becomes, how do I support my basic self? How do I support my body and getting used to the absence of that person? But then you're in a perfect position to support that part of you that sees things in a very materialistic way that way. So for me, the preparation is all about connecting into a level that is transcendent of what I believe to be a death process. And then the way that I can be of greatest service to the person in transition is bearing witness to the infiniteness in them. So I hold with and love and support the infiniteness in them. So even if their lower self goes into, oh my God, I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying, you're holding with them and going, there's nothing, there's no part of who you truly are that can ever die. And you just know it and you hold it and you witness it. And you can become this pillar of strength just by holding in the loving and not, and it's just, it becomes so clear. And then the death process becomes this sacred dance with the infinite. It just becomes so beautiful, so beautiful. And the loving is overwhelming. So for me, the preparation is kind of the same. It's like I'm always trying to move into that level that is transcendent. And it's retraining the consciousness to move away from, move inward instead of going into the interpersonal story that I created about the person. I move inward to the infiniteness that we both are, and I connect at that level.
Love that.
So that's that's my answer on preparing for that. Um, we do something in MSIA called Circle of Light. Have you heard of that?
No.
So we do something in MSIA when somebody's dying called Circle of Light. for people who are in MSA, and maybe I don't know if somebody can post a link about it or something like that, but basically it's a very sacred process of holding the light for somebody in transition. And there's an amazing handbook. If you ever sign up to do that type of thing, well, you're kind of like holding vigil, like all these people sign up to consciously hold light for the person's transition for the time immediately before they pass into spirit. And this handbook that's associated with this is chock full of the most amazing quotes you've ever read about death and dying and how to support death and dying. So I think it's 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 an interesting thing doing what we do, focusing on what we focus on, and then also it's like we're working on dying each day anyway through the process of spiritual exercises. It's like we're transcending. So there's a part of us that goes, well, that's great. They made it. Good for them. You kind of, it's not unfeeling, but it's like you kind of celebrate them because it's great. You completed this body expression and now you get to move on to the next thing, whatever that next thing may be. It's beautiful. And yet at the same time, it's very, very important that we make space for the parts of us that don't see it that way. And the parts of us that feel like I'm never going to feel safe again because I won't be in my father's arms. It's like that's there. And it's like how do we love that part into a different process? And I gave the example earlier of like how would you talk to a little child? It's like that's what I'm talking about. It's like how would you talk to the little child in you about death and about dying? And how do you nurture that part of you into a repatterning? And you can also become that bridge that says, no, he's not gone. He's just shifted his form. He's just shifted in the expression.
Yeah, I find that I'm wanting to be there to protect him from his fears because he's not in MSIA or in some organized religious study. I'm the one who would go to the hospital with him and stay overnight so he wouldn't be afraid and things like that. I'm his parent now.
That's beautiful. And as I said before, the more you can bear witness to the part of him that is transcendent of all of this,
Right.
it's like you resonate in that, you shine a light on that, you make it easier for him to find it.
Thank you.
Okay, now artificial intelligence. Um, Firstly, I think that we're further from what scientists would define as sentience than one would think.
Okay.
The reason people are scared by AI is because people define their value in relation to doing and having.
Yes.
They think that they are what they do, and they think that they are what they have. AI will do better than most humans at the doing that most of what we do is in like out in the world, like crunching numbers or doing things like that. AI is going to do that better, most likely. And AI is going to fundamentally reshape the economy, most likely, in ways that will affect the way that we have things. Now, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's an opportunity because doing and having were always part of illusion, and they were always part of getting people out of their own kingdom of heaven, getting people out there looking for love in all the strange places rather than looking inward to their own beingness for the love, the truth, the master that they seek. I believe that AI is going to be an incredible mirror by which we understand what it truly means to be human, and that being human is much, much more than what we do, and much, much more than what we think, and much, much more than what we have. It is a beingness that is transcendent of all of that. And it may be, I mean, to a large extent, much of human consciousness functions like an AI in the sense that a lot of our decisions are made subconsciously and then we justify them consciously. You
Mhm.
see this all the time. People will do anything to protect a story.
Right.
Now, you can get pretty far in that way in terms of like you can build an extraordinary civilization, you can do a lot with just that response and that analytical capacity. But what you can't do is explore the inner frontier because, in that sense, AIs lack an internal metaphorical landscape in the way that humans do. And I think that people who are afraid of AI are really just projecting fear around their own sense of value because they haven't created a vocabulary for their beingness that transcends the doing and the having.
Yes.
So in many ways, it's like if somebody comes to me and they're freaked out about I redirect it back at them and go, great, AI is a mirror. What are you really afraid of? So it's like the way that we see things that are unknown and big tends to be the way that we see ourselves. So people deal with a fearful God, they're dealing with a fearful part of themselves. Right now it's AI, before it was God. The solution to all of it is firsthand experience. If we're afraid of losing our humanness to AI, we need to dig deeper and find a more real form of humanness. That one's tougher to crack.
The
AI,
one, I'm sorry,
sorry, go ahead.
the one that I struggle with is security.
What security?
We won't have the ability to have our banks secure, and everything will be out discoverable.
That's so funny. So, got it. So it's going to mess with people's fantasy that there's security in this world.
That's good.
It's going to die. All of this. The whole me that I think I am is going to die with the body. The part of us that isn't going to die certainly isn't replaceable by AI. So
Yeah.
I would double down on that one. And I
Yes.
think it is our beingness that will lead the way. And I actually think AI can support us in that because humans tend to have a lot of blind spots. For the same reason I mentioned before, we make a lot of decisions subconsciously and then we have to justify them. And by the way, we don't like to see things that don't fit our narrative. So if I always leave my keys in the same spot and then I put them in a different spot, I just can't see them. I mean, it's like literally people become blind to it. And all of that is a vehicle for by which we experience, and all of that's gonna die. And then we'll move on to the next one. Right now, AI is largely a probability-driven automated collaboration tool. It doesn't originate in a meaningful way, intention or ideas.
Right.
Sentience, to really crack that open, requires a kind of beingness. To really crack that open. And even using the term artificial intelligence is somewhat deceiving. It's it's like, what do we mean by intelligence?
Right.
Because ultimately, you're talking about a system that is still representative of a designer's intent. And the designer is somebody that is a soul having a human experience. And then you look at the whole thing, and everything came out of God anyway. I think artificial intelligence is going to be an incredible tool for humans to understand their humanness. It's going to tell us our blind spots. It's going to tell us about all the things that we wanted to ignore, the fabric of our blindness. It's gonna it's gonna reveal so much. It may be misused. It already is being misused. It already has been misused. But it also can be used as a great awareness tool. If you ever build context with ChatGPT and then ask it questions about yourself, like, what do you think is my biggest blind spot? Or where do you think I have the most growth needed in my life? Or what's the thing that I'm avoiding right now? Just see what it says. If you give it enough context, you might be shocked at how insightful and valuable it is. Or you get the voice one going and you start saying, hey, you're a great yogi, teacher, magnificent master. And I want you to ask me a series of questions that will reveal my next big awareness that's going to change my life. And I want you to ask one question at a time, and I want you to keep asking questions until I have that aha moment. You just see what it does.
Whoa.
It works. I think
That
it could
sounds,
I look, I think it could work better. That's why I work for an AI health coach company. That's why I do that because I think like for certain areas it could be incredible, but people are already using ChatGPT to try and figure out how to be healthy. And I'm just saying, we could have a better fit for purpose tool. But my God, it's like some people are not even going to therapy, they're just going to ChatGPT.
yes. Well, that sounds like great homework to give my patients.
I actually think that's true. And I also think there's a huge opportunity in as soon as they start channeling ChatGPT or whatever the product is as a tool for their own inner awareness, then they'll see the benefits of it. They won't be so afraid of it. But I also think the bigger tool is what does my fear of AI tell me about my fear of myself?
I'll get back to you on that.
All right. So those are
Thank
my
you so
those
much.
those are my thoughts on
Thank you.
that point. Okay. Um, thank you. All right. I'll have Paul go because Paul hasn't shared before.
Okay,
Okay.
basically, I was walking down the street one day, minding my own business, and all of a sudden I heard a voice, space dust.
Okay.
Mm. It was, it was like I was hearing God's voice. I mean,
Hearing God's voice.
so usually when I've had experiences like this, it's directly read something. So I went inside and tried to figure out what it meant. And basically, what it showed me was that we are being infiltrated by alien energies coming from outer space, and it's affecting us. So when I see that, then I start looking for ways that we can help ourselves to release ourselves from this negative energy. And obviously, and then
Yeah,
so
when the energy comes in, you're dispersing it right now. Like when the spirit's coming in, you're dispersing it. And then that's why you're doing the crying thing. Why don't you try pulling it into your center, into your heart, and then into your feet, like down through your feet? Like imagine you're a pillar of light and just kind of breathe it in and let that spirit flow right in there. And then if you need to cry, you can cry, but I just, what you were doing was dispersing the energy and you didn't need to do that. And it was making it hard for me to hear what you're saying.
People very often find it hard for me to hear me when I'm saying.
Yeah, that moment, there you go. Yeah, bring it all in into
Anyway,
the center.
what I came up with is a device that will help people release themselves from this negative energy that's coming from outer space or from aliens. Um, I see it as sort of like clouding our vision, getting us stuck doing things that are not important, deflecting us from spirit. So what I do is when I come across something like that, I come up with a system that'll help people release it. And for this particular thing, what it is, it's like you see yourself inside of a canister, sort of like like an MRI canister. And then what you do is then you just see yourself filled with light, bring light inside the canister. And also what we'll do is the canister will start rotating and you've got a band of 3 bands of light going down the tube and they'll change colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink.
I saw something similar. It looked like this.
Uh,
Okay, that could work.
Yeah, I like that one.
And so when you get done that, I'm gonna check inside and like that I'm not being affected by that space dust anymore.
Do you know what the space dust thing could mean too?
But
Well, there's molecules in your body that could only be made at the center of a collapsing neutron star. So, in a very real sense, we're all kind of made of space dust. So there is that. So in a practical sense, I'd say we're probably star people in that way.
hmm,
Possibility. But I like your canister idea.
um, yeah, also when I check for people who might have it, they're they're usually in a state of something's not right, running right inside of them. And then when we go through this system of releasing it, all of a sudden they feel better than before.
That's beautiful, man. That's good feedback.
I guess my real question is, you know, you know, why do I get these images or thoughts from God and sort of guide me to go and look for answers?
Well, I think you get the information that you get and you get the guidance that you get because that's part of what you're here to learn. One of the big illusions that I dealt with is I would see a lot and get a lot of information when I was young. And I always thought, Well, at first I was just really pissed off about it because, I didn't want to see all the ugly stuff on people. But then I thought maybe it was for me to criticize or judge or maybe fix. And then it occurred to me that it was being shown to me because I'm uniquely qualified to love and serve, and that my loving would transmute that. So what really broke it free for me was when I realized I only see myself, and not in an egocentric sense, but the suffering that I see is my suffering, the judgment that I see is my judgment, that I perceive through that. So if I'm being shown something, primarily my first response nowadays is to assume that I have something to work on, I have something to clear inside myself. And then when somebody comes to me and they have an issue, I assume that they're coming to me to bring a new thing that I didn't know that I needed to clear inside myself. So it it's easy to get pulled into this notion that we got to go out and fix somebody or fix some situation because we have intuition. But sometimes intuition is just there because you're God's beloved and because you're being given the key to your own healing. That's why we often say in the movement, take care of yourself so you can help take care of others. So first and foremost, you're being shown things that are needed for you to learn and take care of yourself. There may be space dust. There's more than enough negativity on the planet to mess with people, even without the space dust. But regardless, if it brings more loving and more joy and more peace to yourself and others, and if you do it with loving, I'm sure it'll work. It's really the loving that makes it work.
True.
And I like the visualization of the canister. It reminded me of the image that came forward for me. It's been very helpful for me. It's, I think if you think about it too much or make it too big or put emotion on it, then it can be manipulated by the negativity. I find that the key with all of this is to stay very ordinary. Now, I might over-index on that because I can be very irreverent. I I I tend to poke fun at very solemn things. But that's how I keep it real ordinary because ultimately we're all divine beings having a human experience. And if we're dealing with alien debris affecting people's negativity or something like that, or whether we're dealing with brushing our teeth, we're just divine beings having a human experience. So I look at it as like, how do I make it ordinary? Because I find ordinariness to be liberation. Now, people would look at my ordinary and probably think I was a little weird, and that's totally okay with me. Because my version of ordinary, the way that I do ordinariness, has a whole lot of loving and serving in it, and a whole lot of simplicity in the way that I relate to other people. So I would assume that God's showing you all these things because God loves you.
That's true.
And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do anything other than receive of that and work with that inside of you. And then it's trusting that whoever comes to you is there because you're uniquely qualified to love and serve them, whether that's helping them with their groceries at the market or whether that's teaching them about a cylinder of light with three bands in it. It's to me it's all this it's like it's all the same. I don't have a romantic notion of like we're on this call right now and I'm with you and that's who I'm with and that's the most important thing in the world to me right now. And when I'm going and cooking for the family, that's the most important thing in the world to me and that's the greatest way that I can serve. You see? It's the simplicity of it and the ordinariness of it. And whether it was God speaking to you, your own soul speaking to you, or you tuning to an ascended master, or whatever it is, it's all just information. And it's all just you having the experiences you need to have to learn the things that you need to know, to learn, and then you going home to God.
Yeah.
So there's a simplicity in that approach.
Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you for sharing about your intuition and what came forward for you. It was beautiful. Anything else?
No, I think that's about it. No.
Well, it was great talking to you, Paul. God bless you.
Sometimes I kind of think I'm crazy, but usually works out okay.
You know what? I think everybody should think they're crazy just so they can avoid going insane.
True.
It's crazy being human. People do the strangest things. And all those strange things that they do are so incredibly lovable. I don't think you're crazy. I think you're just doing the best you can with what you know. And I think intuition doesn't have always have an instruction manual with it.
No.
So I would love the process and love yourself and be compassionate with yourself.
Okay, thank you.
All right, man. God bless you. All right. You both shared with me before, yeah? Okay. Thank you for your honesty. Who shared more with me? Oh my God, Carla, I'm gonna do Juliana first. You were very, very noble. That was beautiful.
Thank you for calling on Jeffrey.
Hello.
Um, so for about 10 years now, I have been smoking marijuana. And I am sort of at the point now where I'm like outgrowing it, but it's really hard to stop. Um, and I'm in therapy. I'm aware of, what it does to my brain, but me like doesn't want to stop. But like physically, I know I have to because it's just making my anxiety worse and it's starting to freak me out. But like it just pot's always been there for me. I'm not been a person to have a lot of friends. Like, I don't drink anymore. And so I've had this issue where, I get hooked onto things and it's hard to stop, right? Um, and so I guess I'm just open to anything you have to say about that because, like I said, I'm in a point where I know I need to stop, but I can't, right? And I've heard you speak on this before that there's really no room for pot and substances in the movement, and I want to hear more about that because maybe that'll just shed some light as maybe another like just another point of view
Yeah,
to sort of help me grasp this.
so there's a couple pieces. So one, understanding that you have an addiction going and that it's important to understand what you get out of that addiction and how that mechanism was set up to support you inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big proponent of you can't like it's like taking away smoking or taking away anything else from somebody and just saying you have to quit, you have to quit, you have to quit. Now, there are physical circumstances, like if you developed an allergy where you would puff up and stop breathing if you smoked weed, you'd stop smoking weed right away.
Mm-hmm.
There
Yeah.
are there are physical circumstances, but the type of thing I'm talking about is I don't like my experiences until you really understand, get to the root of, and find something as good or better to put in its place, then you're going to be tempted back into that pattern because you simply you've integrated into the system of by which you function in this world. Now,
Mm-hmm.
from a movement of spiritual inner awareness's perspective, it's not that there's no place for weed, as in like you're not welcome, we don't love you. It's that it's not an energy that's compatible with the work that we do. It's not personal. It's not like, oh, you're bad or oh, weed is bad. It's just not, it's almost like oil and water. It doesn't jive. It doesn't hold it's not compatible with the energy in which we work. Now, the truth is, people still drink alcohol in the movement, but I would say that, an excessive or addictive amount of alcohol is also not compatible with the work that we do either.
Yeah.
And at times, cigarettes can even be incompatible with the work that we do because addictions can get in the way of the spiritual focus.
Yeah.
I think it's really about freedom. One of the ways that the negative power traps us here is through this process of hypnotic rhythm, this process of lulling us into habitual patterns of addiction. And addiction can come in the form of doom scrolling. It can come in the form of cigarettes. It can come in the form of marijuana. It can come in the form of sex. It can come in
Yep.
the form of eating.
Yes.
And I don't have any judgment on any of those. But the thing that is as good or better to go in its place in the case of marijuana for you is you probably, A, like, and I have n nothing but love for the psychologists of the world and that whole method, but I don't think any psychological process, and I'm not talking about spiritual psychology, but like psychological process in the world would hold a candle to soul awareness.
Agreed.
So you having a more direct experience of soul awareness, it might take a leap of faith. It might take, okay, I go off marijuana, I really focus on my discourses, I work towards initiation, I do my SCs, and I really see if I can get fulfillment in a way that isn't marijuana.
Yep.
But the tricky part is, and this is why I said you have to understand systemically what you get from it. There's probably something your physical body gets from it. And so you may need to take something else, like St. John's wort or something like that, that will bring some calming or something like that. You might need to you need to understand the role that it plays in the ecosystem of your experience. If you
Okay.
just try to go cold turkey because your mind says so,
It doesn't work.
it won't work because you're not listening to all the parts of you that have very valid needs that are being met by marijuana. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very valid needs in your consciousness being met by a suboptimal strategy. That's what's going on right now. And it's
Yes.
suboptimal because it's blocking you from the pearl of great price, which is the sound current and initiation of the sound current, which is like, I mean, that's like game over. There's nothing better in this world. There's the ecstasy and the bliss that you experience in soul awareness is so far beyond the best sex you could ever have, the best weed you could ever have, the best money you could ever have. So, and people ask me, like, I've been asked in the past, like, well, why aren't you more ambitious? Why aren't you more competitive? Because what I want, the world can't give me.
Mm.
Once you are touched by the sound current that way, you die to the world. It's the strangest thing. The food doesn't taste the same. Nothing, nothing's the same. What you want becomes so clear, and it's just not here. And then you get into trouble when you try to look for that thing that you know that you want out in the world with the sex and the marijuana and all the other stuff. But it's not a right or a wrong. It's just sometimes you have to give up the tricycle to drive the Ferrari, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that as like, I'm not trying to sell you on this. I'm just being honest. Like, whatever you get from weed energetically, I mean, like if I was such, I could break it down for you specifically. It's like part of it is the sensitivity that you came in with, which
Yes.
includes some intuition, which you tried to turn off because it brought images to you that upset you in your mind and your dreams. And also, when you were around people, you would know things that you didn't want to know. So you smoke the weed to quiet everything down. right? So that's
Yep.
one. There's also your body, which tends to have a vagus nerve response. Like you tend to go like this.
Yes.
You have a
Yes.
vagus nerve response where you go like this.
On my right
Especially
side.
there's specific triggering stimuli. Usually it's a tone of voice. I think it's like a certain male baritone voice will do it. There's certain images that will do it, but they trigger that, and then you don't know how to deactivate the vagus nerve so that you can calm down and breathe normally again. Your breathing moves up here, and then you start seeing, but all of that you're solving for, and I've just given you two. There's more, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
There's also intimacy. You have a fear of losing yourself in others, therefore you isolate from others because
Yeah.
you fear losing your selfness in them, right? So we could just go down the list. We just keep going. How am I doing?
Oh, you're hitting every box.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, and
the
all of
most
that is
ice.
solved for you right now by weed.
Yes.
So you have to be willing to dig into each of those. And now here's the good news. In the movement, in the movement of spiritual inner awareness, in USM, in insight seminars, in all the work that John Rogers set up, there is mountains, mountains of ways to work each of those. There's tons of stuff. There are also practitioners in the movement who are working in the light, who are incredible at working each of those. There's also the fact that you have a lot of unprocessed emotions that you store in various parts of your body, which also cause some pain, like an aching sort of imbalances, which could also result in some hormonal imbalances, things of that nature. That is also dealt with
Yes.
partially by the weed. So it could be things like inconsistent cycles, things of that nature.
PMS. My PMS is
Yeah,
so bad. Horrible.
yeah. So all of that is a closet full of stuff that you've chosen not to work with and chosen to anesthetize yourself using this or maybe this, I don't know, whatever you use. And you just deciding to quit that, it's like the house of cards collapses and then you go, oh my God, I need weed. Well, of course, because you haven't dealt with all those pieces. So what I would suggest is, look, if you're asking me, on a personal level, like my advice, like, well, would you stop smoking? Well, hell yeah, because I know what soul awareness gives me. It's like, really? Okay, give up this crappy 7-Eleven hot dog, no offense to 7-Eleven, and for this filet mignon. It's like
Yeah.
it's obvious. I can say that from this perspective, but I have zero judgment because I also know what's going on in your consciousness and all the things you get out of the weed.
Mm-hmm.
So I have nothing but love for you and compassion and support. And I have an infinite willingness to be there with you and support you if you ever decide that, like, if you go, you know what? I don't need the weed. I would get an army of things that are supporting you in those other things. Like, it can't just be one therapist. It's like, what are you doing to work? It's like, what are you doing to clear the emotions out of your body level? What are you doing are you doing vagus nerve exercises to keep your vagus nerve? And it's like, you create, it's not about having a goal called getting out of weed
Mm-hmm.
because systems eat goals for breakfast. Right
Mm-hmm.
now you have a system that's optimized for weed. If you want a system that's optimized for spiritual growth, you're going to have to put all those parts in place, and it is 100% worth it. It's
Yeah.
100% worth it. So please understand, I'm all for it. It's just if you just do this cold turkey thing, unless you're extremely willful, which I totally dig if you are, but it's like you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
So I would say it's like cold turkey while signing up for this class, and this class, and working with this person and doing that. I would have an army of support around you
Mm,
to cover all the stuff that you currently anesthetize with your weed.
yep.
And it's
I
worth it.
also I also had half of my thyroid removed because I had cancer a year ago, and like yeah, it's the one, it's just comfort through all of it.
Yeah. And so you need to let go of that comfort for the comforter, for the Holy Spirit, for the one that's transcendent of that.
Got it.
You
I need
you
an
can do
army.
it. You can do it.
I
And
can't. It just like
and
I
it's
gave up alcohol, I can do it.
and it's the army on the inner level too. It's all
Ah,
the emissaries of light. It's the mystical travelers to Christ. It's archangels. It's getting your army together and going, we're gonna do this. We're gonna, we're, I'm gonna let go of this weed thing and I'm gonna take on the sound current.
mm, I've never thought about it like that. So thank you. That sits really well. That seems more doable for me. I can work with that.
It's totally doable. It's 100% doable. It's 100% doable. And by the way, you start listening to yourself, you start loving yourself, you start doing this approach, you might just get hit by lightning, and then your consciousness shifts because as soon as you seek that light, you cannot be denied.
Got
Please
it.
understand, as soon as you put that intention, every particle of existence is going to conspire to get you there. So there's a lot of support that comes forward when you say, I'm working towards initiation, this is what I'm going to do. All of a sudden, something may shift in your consciousness and you go, oh, I'm not a person who smokes weed anymore. And you may
Hmm.
wake up and have no idea why. But I'm just saying, go into it with your eyes open. So even if you don't wake up and have that transformation, which does happen. And there's people on this call who have had that exact transformation where they just woke up and went, I don't do that anymore.
Hmm.
That is there. So it's like trust God, but keep your camel tied. And the keep your camel tied is be loving and be compassionate and be aware that you're not stupid. There's a reason why you've been smoking weed. There's
Yeah.
there's something you've been getting out of it. There's systems set up around you, inside you, that are optimized for you to smoke weed. So
Yep.
be loving and be compassionate and keep your eyes wide open as you shift this.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That
My
really
pleasure.
helps. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you. Oh man, it's super late. Carla, I got I
I can
I'm killing Laren right now. Laren is so tired. He's so mad at me right now.
I can wait until Saturday. I'm always there Saturday too. I can wait.
You're first in line. You got to
Okay.
remind me, but you're
Thank you.
all right. Well, thank you everybody for being with me. God bless you. I love you. Peace be still. The blessings already are. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
That was amazing.